I'm Brad.
I'm Meg. Welcome to the Millennial Report.
Meg, what is going on with this election?
Hard to watch. Great content for social media and comedians, which I know we'll talk about later today, because there's a lot of business impacts across the board. So most of my friends are saying that there's no candidate that they strongly support, and really that there's just one that they disagree with less than the other. A large amount of the population that feels this way right now, right. Millennials especially.
Definitely agree. And at this point, I'd be more comfortable voting for Claire Underwood, dare I say Chris Rock for head of state. And just for gigs, let's throw in Marty Huggins as the running mate for VP on either ticket. But all movie and Netflix references aside, what we've noticed is there are some serious market events and business activities that have been taking place over the course of the political circus as we've been watching. So with regard to the business impacts, advertising, social media, technology, and where the FANG stocks all play into this, which everyone knows technically should be FANA if we're basing it on company names, but that's not as cool as FANG, so we'll stick to referring to the ticker symbols. I know you had a little bit of on technology as well that you were looking into.
Yeah, so of the non-political commercials that we've seen surrounding political events, tech has dominated. Even outside of the TV ads being run, the algorithm culture brands that we all know and love are making major new product announcements. Many of these announcements are having a positive correlation to the Nasdaq 100, which hit an intraday high yesterday before today's pullback across the board, where we are seeing a lot of yesterday's gains being given back. Also noteworthy, the Nasdaq 100 technology sector is up 18% since the start of the campaigning, which for the purpose of this conversation, we're considering to be when the candidates actually begin spending money on active television ads. And since the beginning of the ad campaign launches, Facebook is up almost 11%, Amazon is up 16%, Netflix up 8%, and Google, the G in FANG, is up 10%.
That G in FANG. So we'll continue to watch for where those companies kind of see some of their movement after some of the announcements that they've made over the last quarter.
I mean, Google and their Pixel announcement,
yeah,
that was huge.
Yep.
I mean, I want to check out these new Google phones.
And Google Home, too, the competitor for Amazon Echo. I mean, as much as I love shouting out Alexa when I go back to my parents' house, I think I've got to check out the Google Home as well now.
Yeah.
One of the things that we mentioned earlier, social media. Diving further to the tech sector that you just mentioned, let's think about how this presidential race is impacting social media. For the first time ever, we have a known cyberbully for a presidential nominee. Through all of these spars, they're unfortunately detracting attention away from the huge Twitter-NFL partnership, which was a huge deal in itself and also a major factor in Twitter's late September rally. However, they've dipped once again on acquisition talks. So the brand who we all flocked to, pun fully intended, around 2010, 2011, are seemingly going to be acquired. Looking at some of the major players out there. So we had Google out there, we had Apple out there, we currently have Salesforce.com out there. Personally, I was pulling for Google and Apple because it selfishly would mean that in 2016, two of the largest social media platforms would be acquired by Nasdaq-listed companies.
That's true.
Generally speaking, social brands that IPO on Nasdaq, and you can fact check me on this. I don't have a fact checker site like Hillary and Donald, but you can fact check me on this, Google Finance, Yahoo Finance, whatever you want to use. Social brands that IPO on Nasdaq have grown. NYSE, New York Stock Exchange social brands haven't nearly grown as much. So, in particular, let's toss out a few. Google, if you think about the fact that they own YouTube, huge social platform, they've grown nearly 1,400% since their IPO. Facebook, 238%. Weibo, 161%. Twitter, they IPO on New York Stock Exchange, decline lifetime 56%. LinkedIn, a little bit better of a case. They've had 100% growth since their IPO, but who'd they just get acquired by? Deal's not finished yet. Microsoft earlier this year.
Yep.
So, going back to Facebook as well, if I could stay on them for a second, they continue to lead the way in shared video, which is huge throughout this campaign. Throughout the political campaigning, users have seen an influx of extremist comments exhibited by supporters for each party. So overall, engagements should be up tremendously. And what I'd be interested in seeing is how much of an increase there was in video views, number one, since the nominees began campaigning. And we always talk about as well, monthly active users.
Yeah.
So in a lot of the reporting that we're going to see come out over the coming weeks, monthly active users is always something that the social media platforms in particular base, advertising models off of. So it's a major revenue driver for them. And then just even furthermore with regard to how we're consuming the political environment right now, whether it's, watching NBC News or watching CNN or watching whatever, the second screen experience is more alive than ever before, whether it's creating a meme about something somebody said or
Ken Bone.
No, Ken Bone. Shout out to Ken Bone.
Exactly. Focusing on advertising. We touched on this earlier for a brief moment. Now, according to NBC News, Hillary, who launched her ads in June, has spent over $190 million.
Wow.
On that. And Trump, who openly announced that he hadn't spent a dime in advertising prior to the first debate, has now spent upwards of $50 million since then.
Wow.
He seems to also be very proud of the fact that he's funding much of his advertising and general campaign out of his own money. And he has made multiple suggestions that Hillary should do the same. You used to manage advertising here at Nasdaq for one of our lines of businesses.
I did, yep.
So from an advertiser's perspective, what has stuck out to you most?
All right, so I'm going to give you pros and cons for each of them. So for Hillary, you've got a traditional political advertising approach, where she's pulling in different sound bites from Donald's speeches, where she's completely in the right to do so, because when you hear some of the sound bites that he's putting out there, even in context, you're like, I don't believe somebody would actually say that who's running for this office, the greatest office in all the land.
I can't.
She's got this traditional advertising approach where you'll see a lot of the television ads being run, and so I admire that, and that she's going with what works.
Yeah.
Where I will commend Mr. Trump is that the day after the first debate, he openly announced that he hadn't spent any money on advertising yet. He launched a campaign that I first came across because it was digital. So you could tell the audience that he was going after. He knew the audience of millennials he wasn't necessarily winning with. So thinking about that, I saw it in YouTube, not because I was slacking off at work. I gotta be on YouTube sometimes. So I was on YouTube and saw a big buyout placement. So basically, for those of you that don't know, buyout placement is basically so that you get 100% share of voice within a platform on a certain day. So for all of that day, all I saw was Donald Trump on YouTube. He had a push down, which basically means you can open or close the creative that he made. And within that creative, there was a video, obviously a campaign video that they could have been running in tandem with television advertising. But I thought it was well played, and obviously given my background, I thought that they put a little bit more thought into how they were going to approach advertising from that perspective. So I do have to give them a small win on that. I remember back in 2013, Intel, I believe, was running an ad, a buyout placement, where it was a push down, and embedded within it, they had a video. First time I had ever seen it. Mine was blown, right?
Gotcha.
Reached out, and I was like, how did they do this? I need to be able to do this. So that's one way brands are becoming very interactive with their ad creative that they're running. You can run push down in other places other than just a leaderboard section, but I thought it was interesting that they used that opportunity.
Just today, I saw a number of new Hillary ads come out. I think they released 4 new ones today.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and actually, interestingly enough, a professor that I had is featured in one of them.
Wow.
As like the focus of the ad. It's a really compelling ad, I'm not going to lie to you. But she's continuing to use clips of, Donald Trump sound bites that are, generally abhorrent. So every few days or whatever, she's pumping up new ads.
Right.
And I haven't seen as many coming from Donald on TV.
Right. Even in tandem with the digital advertising that we're seeing in the traditional digital forms, there's also social advertising. Even in the midst of all the news that came out on Friday about Donald, the fact that he went to Facebook to post this video also shows the power of social throughout this campaign.
Oh, yeah.
And Barack was one of the first politicians that used social very well to his advantage. It's very interesting and almost reassuring to see how it's progressed certain conversations with different demographics up into this campaign now, this election year in particular. But one area that's even more important than advertising on social is the sentiment that you're giving off to all of the people, monthly active users. In my Instagram feed, I'm not sure what you're saying, but in my Instagram feed, all I saw during the debate was Sunday night.
Yeah, it was Sunday.
I know because it's always on football night, and that's cutting into the NFL's viewership as well. The political debates are definitely, they're impacting TV viewership. And the NFL has been known, soundbite from Concussion, for owning a day of the week.
Right.
So jumping back to what you're seeing in your social feed, throughout the debate on Sunday, the timely question, like, in all of this hatred, what do you guys think of one another? Can you say one positive thing about one another?
Well, no, yeah, no, and yeah, the kin bone memes, and then also the Trump lurking memes.
Yeah.
That was a big one for me. It's just him lurking in the background, which I was there watching it, and I said to my boyfriend, I was like, what is he doing right now? And then I checked instantly. I was like, I can't be the only one that saw this.
No.
And as soon as I opened it up, I had every commentary and every possible joke. It was great.
Gosh.
It was great.
Well, it's amazing. It's very humorous, but at the same time, there's a lot of serious things that we need to consider as a nation and who we're putting into this office.
Absolutely.
As well. So,
absolutely.
Very amazing to see how this is affecting technology, and we'll continue to see how it affects it going forward.